Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. So I, about a month ago, sorry, my name is Martha Alter Hines, and today I'm doing this talk on Ceres and Persephone. And the reason I am doing that is because about a month ago, I just got told by the spirit world to do a talk on Ceres. So I planned for that. And then as I dropped into what that was about and why, suddenly it became clear that really what's alive is not just the Ceres archetype, but then the Persephone archetype, because Persephone is the daughter of Ceres and you kind of can't look at one without the other. So I realized I wanted to incorporate both. And so what I'm planning to do today is I am going to do a slideshow presentation and a talk, and but I really would love to hear from you, which is why I invited lots of you to be here live if you were able, and I'm so glad many of you are here live, because in general, my feeling about astrology and about life is that all of these energies live as us and are us. So I don't claim to be an expert on Ceres or Persephone or any of these archetypes. I really feel called to, in a sense, be a vessel, like each of us are, for that energetic to express itself in the world and to bring whatever wisdom and healing we're needing through those archetypes and those energies that are really us. So I'm hoping that we can use part of this time for me to talk, but then open it up for you all to talk too in whatever way you feel called. So I'll also say that at the end of this month, I'm holding a workshop with Michelle Dench on the dark goddesses, which will, I'm pretty sure we're going to be including Ceres, maybe Persephone too. And then starting in January, I'll be holding a goddess series, one goddess per month with Farina Burrell. And we're going to be starting with Persephone in January and probably Ceres in February. And then we'll month by month, one goddess at a time. And this is the approach that we're going to be taking, which is to give information, but really hold it in the space of us each being vessels of the wisdom of these archetypes. So I just want to put that out there, that this is like the teeny tip of an iceberg, of course, in lots of ways. And I will be holding space for lots more exploration if you're interested in that. So to start, hi, Nancy. Yes, I'm so glad you're here. And Tatsi. Persephone is, I want to say, the Greek name, and then the Roman name is something else, but very close to Persephone. Not remembering. But so Ceres is what we associate with the astrology for Demeter, which is the mother in the Greek version. And then there's Persephone in the Greek version as the daughter. And then in the Roman version, it's, maybe one of you knows the exact spelling, but it's something. It's close to it. But I'm going to call her Persephone just because that's how I think of her. So I'm mixing Greek and Roman. Yes, I am. Okay. And I'm going to bring up I'm gonna try to share my screen. Oh, you guys are seeing yourselves, right? You're not seeing my,
We
okay.
we see your presentation. And
oh, you do?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good. Awesome. All right. So yeah, just really briefly about me for anyone who doesn't know me or who does and wants to know more about me. My name is Martha Alter Hines, and I do astrology, which is based in EA, evolutionary astrology, and the main person I have studied with is Ari Moshe Wolf. I'm also really influenced by Heather Ensworth, who I'm going to be studying with this whole coming year, starting this month, actually. And and then I also am influenced by some shamanic astrology. But the main things that I bring to everything having to do with astrology and life is that I also have this 20-year background as a clinical social worker, a psychotherapist, and working with a lot of trauma and trauma-informed practices with people in social work. And then I have a very strong connection with the spirit world. So everything that I do, including astrology, is really informed first and foremost by my connection with the spirit world. And then the astrology comes second. So that's infused in everything I do and infused in this presentation too. So it's a bridge of the right and left brain. That's one way to put it. So in terms of the resources that I use to get my information for this presentation, of course, there is the Demetra George Goddess Asteroids book. I also, a couple of years ago, read the Jean Bolen Goddesses in Every Woman book, which talks about these archetypes. And then Verena Burrell showed me this very cool book called Lost Goddesses in Early Greece by Charlene Spretnak. And she has a chapter on Persephone and Ceres. So I was really happy to find that book. And then, I looked at nasa.gov and various other websites, but those are the main things I looked at. So here's some just really beautiful images that I found of Persephone and Ceres, or Demeter, whatever words you want to use for them. On the left is an image of both of them together, and the one in the middle is a Ceres image, and the one on the right is a really famous one of Persephone. Okay, so the myths around Ceres and Persephone vary quite a lot, like all myths. And so I wanted to talk about the two main distinctions that I see when I look into the myths. One is this version where Ceres is an earth mother. She's the mother of grains. She has a daughter named Persephone, and Persephone is abducted and taken into the underworld and essentially raped and forced to be down there. And then Ceres is extremely distraught. I'm giving the tiny, quick version of this, of course. And because of her grief, she creates winter, essentially, and she decimates the life of all of agriculture and all over the earth. And only when she's able to find Persephone, she then brings back life onto the earth. Okay, so that's like a super short cliff note version of option one. Then option two, which I don't think one is right or wrong, but I personally resonate a little more with option two, which is described in this book, Lost Goddesses of Early Greece. And I want to read just a short piece of the myth that really speaks to me because it's relevant to a lot of the energetics that I feel in these archetypes. And I also think you might enjoy it. So just like the brief difference between option 1 and option 2 is that in then option 2, the thinking is it wasn't that Persephone was abducted, it's that she willfully, on purpose, chose to go to the underworld. So here is how this version of the myth describes that. Okay. So this is Persephone talking, and she says to Ceres, "Mother, sometimes in my wanderings, I have met the spirits of the dead hovering around their earthly homes, and sometimes the mortals too can see them in the dark of the moon by the light of their fires and torches. There are those spirits who drift about restlessly, but they mean no harm. I spoke to them, Mother. They seem confused, and many do not even understand their own state. Is there no one in the netherworld who receives the newly dead?" Demeter, meaning Ceres, sighed and answered softly, "It is I who has domain over the underworld. From beneath the surface of the earth, I draw forth the crops and the wild plants. And in pits beneath the surface of the earth, I have instructed the mortals to store my seed from harvest until sowing, in order that contact with the spirits of my underworld will fertilize the seed. Yes, I know very well the realm of the dead, but my most important work is here. I must feed the living." Persephone rolled over and thought about the ghostly spirits she had seen, about their faces drawn with pain and bewilderment. "The dead need us, Mother. I will go to them." Demeter abruptly sat upright as a chill passed through her and rustled the grass around them. She was speechless for a moment, but then hurriedly began recounting all the pleasures they enjoyed in their world of sunshine, warmth, and fragrant flowers. She told her daughter of the dark gloom of the underworld and begged her to reconsider. Persephone sat up and hugged her mother and rocked her with silent tears. For a long while, they held each other, radiating rainbow auras of love and protection. Yet Persephone's response was unchanged. They stood and walked in silence down the slope toward the fields. Finally, they stopped, surrounded by Demeter's grain, and shared weary smiles. "Very well, you are loving and giving, and we cannot give only to ourselves. I understand why you must go. Still, you are my daughter, and for every day that you remain in the underworld, I will mourn your absence." So I really personally loved that version. And yeah, give you that as something you can feel into yourself and see how it feels for you. So let me just see if I'm missing anything else about the mythology that I wanted to say. So when I go into my own praying on these archetypes, what I feel, and again, I don't feel like this is the only option. It's just what comes through for me and what's alive for me. And this is part of what I would love to discuss with you in a few minutes when I'm done with this presentation. What I feel is Ceres as an energy that is one and the same as Persephone, actually. Often they're thought of as the same goddess, just at different stages of development or different sides of the one energy. And if I think of it that way, of course, all of these archetypes are various facets of ourselves, of the oneness that is the all that is, and therefore the oneness that is each of us. So what comes up for me in my own praying is Ceres as this energetic of existence and of ourselves, as the unconditional loving great mother. And this energetic of being held completely and totally by the divine and by the earth, and a sense of oneness and wholeness in that being held energy. So something that comes with that experience of being held so completely and in such wholeness is, if we're really held that way, if a child is held that way, they develop secure attachment. And so Persephone, I feel like, can be seen. Again, this is what comes up for me in my praying. It's not necessarily the answer. But we could see Persephone as the part of ourself that has this opportunity for secure attachment with the great mother, the all that is, the divine, and even ourselves. And then, if you know about small children, as toddlers are developing attachment and babies are developing attachment, the more secure their attachment is, the more comfortable they feel going away and then coming back, right? So in this option 2 of the Persephone myth, she chooses to go to the underworld to help the dead, essentially to be a midwife to the dead and to the dying. And really, if she's doing that from a healthy perspective, that is as a result of an incredibly secure attachment with her mother, theoretically. So when we are held and we feel able to truly be the wholeness and the divinity that we are, and we can relax into that, suddenly this Persephone part of us can feel safe to go through those layers of the underworld. Like in the Inanna myth as well, shedding the layers of who we are, shedding the layers of our identity until we get to the bottom, where there is just the bottom of the underworld. To me, is, what do we find down there? We find the purity of who we are. And who is the purity of who we are? It's the light. So once we shed all those layers in the dark, we get to pure light. So Persephone, in a sense, I feel like we could see her as this energetic in us that has been held by the divine in a secure enough way that we then can feel safe going down to the underworld and shedding every layer to the point that we reach the light. And not only are we there to reach the light of ourselves, but we're feeling so secure and so good in ourselves, so safe, that we actually also can be there as a midwife to allow for the transmutation of the dying and the dead. So in other words, other souls that also need to find their way to the light. So that's what comes up for me when I pray on these energies. And that may or may not be true for you, and that may or may not be true, but it's true for me. So yeah, in a minute, I would love your thoughts on that. Okay. So Ceres in astronomy, just the asteroid series. So I'm switching gears here, going from very theoretical, spiritual to the actual physical rock. The Ceres was the first asteroid that was discovered. That asteroid was discovered on January 1st, 1801, and it was classified as a dwarf planet in 2006. The asteroid of Ceres is so big that it comprises 25% of the mass of the asteroid belt. So it's very big. That asteroid takes 4 years, 7 months, and 2 weeks to orbit the sun. So it typically travels through about a fourth of the zodiac in a year. Thank you, Nancy. And then the asteroid Persephone. There's an asteroid named Persephone. There's actually also an asteroid named Demeter, but I didn't feel called to really look at that, but that does exist, and I'm sure I will want to look at that at some point. So, but the asteroid Persephone was discovered on February 23rd, 1895, and it's part of the main asteroid belt. And it takes 5.33 years to orbit the sun. So it's a little bit slower than the Ceres asteroid, and it's much smaller than the Ceres asteroid. Ceres in astrology, like I've just been talking about, can be thought of as the Earth Mother, can have to do with mothering, nurturing, protectiveness, loss, grief, letting go, the continuum of life and death, service of the underworld to the upper world or life. Can be associated with energies of allowing a child to go their own way. And Ceres is also often associated with food, grain, agriculture. And then also in another version of the mythology, Ceres takes on a surrogate child. So I definitely associate Ceres energy with surrogate motherhood or adoption, or like the great mother that is the mother to many or to all of us. And I wanted to share a really brief recent Ceres story about my own life, because I think it definitely exemplifies Ceres energy. So 2-3 weeks ago, I guess 3 weeks ago, when Mercury went retrograde, my natal Ceres is at 8 degrees Libra in my first house. And I have my moon on my ascendant. So I have very, very, very strong moon and Ceres energy. So, you know, tons of nurturing, mothering energy in my own chart. But so when Mercury recently went retrograde, it went retrograde at 8 degrees Libra. So precisely on my natal Ceres. And the day it went retrograde, I got a text from an old social work client. So I used to be an adoption social worker. That's a big part of what I did for many years. I was a social worker for adoption cases. And there was, you know, there were many, many clients who I loved very deeply. There's this one client who sticks out, and she's the one and only client I ever gave my personal information to, because I just had this instinct that when she grew up, she would need to reach out to me. So she is now 19 or 20. And this day that Mercury went retrograde on my natal Ceres, she texted me. And she said, Martha, hi, I just wanted to reach out to you and let you know that because of you, my life is going really well. I have a family who loves me. You found that family for me. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, blah, 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 you know. So of course I started sobbing, and it was this huge moment for me. Because I really loved her, really. I mean, she's a very special person, and her life story was horrific. I mean, talk about going to the underworld is, you know, I won't go into detail, but essentially she was born in Mexico, and her mother was schizophrenic and tried to kill her, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, you know, long story. And there was, when I first got her case, I found her living in a pre-adoptive home that was horrible, not okay. And I got her out of it, and I found the home that then end up adopting her, and was a wonderful place, and clearly has gone well. So to me, my relationship to her is not, I'm not her mother, but I felt extremely maternal toward her and very fiercely protective. And I have a lot of grief that comes up for me around her story. And, you know, I could just start crying right now, just thinking about her and what she went through as a child. Horrific, right? but I went to the underworld, grabbed her out, and saved her. And so Mercury went retrograde on my Ceres, and this girl reached out to me. Don't think it's a coincidence. So that definitely, I think of, that's all associated with Ceres to me for sure. Also, I noticed on the day that Queen Elizabeth died recently, Ceres was in Leo opposite Saturn. I don't think that's a coincidence either. I think, like, I can see how Queen Elizabeth, in a sense, is like literally Ceres in Leo, right? A queen mother to the world in lots of ways. And then her death happened when that Ceres in Leo was opposite Saturn. Fascinating. Okay, so the current astrology of the asteroid Ceres, just really briefly, she's currently at 3 degrees Virgo going direct. In 2020, in this year, 2022, she traveled from 28 Taurus she will travel from 28 Taurus to 3 degrees Libra. And she will next go retrograde on February 3rd, 2023 at 6 Libra, 58 minutes. She'll then go direct at 23 Virgo, 49 minutes on May 7th, 2023. And she'll end 2023 at 15 Sagittarius. So she recently was squaring the nodes of the moon. Oh, right. When Queen Elizabeth died, not only was Ceres and Leo opposing Saturn, Ceres and Saturn were also squaring the nodes of the moon. I mean, pretty profound. And then Persephone, as we've already talked about in astrology, I can see how she could be associated with lots of things, including the goddess of the underworld, goddess of spring growth, midwife of death, this energy of separating from parents, an energy around being a victim versus self-empowerment, an energy around going one's own way, again, with that sense of being held and in a secure attachment situation, and an energy of deep compassion. So currently, astrologically, Persephone is at 23 Leo. So she's just behind Ceres right now. She was conjunct Ceres near the North Node starting in August of last year, 2021. She went retrograde at 14 Gemini on October 8th, so a year ago, 2021, and was conjunct Ceres, which went retrograde at 12 Gemini, 5 minutes apart. So Ceres and Persephone were traveling together for quite a long time. Persephone then went direct on January 19th, 2022 at 0 degrees Gemini. Ceres went direct a few days before that on January 14th, 2022. And Persephone will go retrograde next on January 8th, 2023 at 13 degrees Virgo. And then she'll go direct on April 16th, 2023 at 0 degrees Virgo. So, but then what is really interesting, and I want to look into this further when I look at the astrology of 2023, I just want to point out this one really fascinating thing that I noticed, which is the asteroid Ceres and the asteroid Persephone will each conjunct the south node of the moon while the nodes are squaring Pluto and the north node is on Eris Xena. So Ceres will be conjunct the south node of the moon at 25 Libra on September 4th, 2023, with Eris Xena at 25 Aries on the north node and squaring Pluto. And then Persephone, a little while later, will conjunct the south node at 24 Libra on October. 24 Libra happens to be my north node. just pointing that out. It's fascinating to me. Okay, but Persephone will conjunct the south node at 24 Libra on October 14th, 2023, so in a year. And this is also a new moon eclipse at 21 Libra opposite Ceres and squaring. Okay, I'll show you this. That's a lot. I'll show you the actual chart. So maybe not by coincidence, my south node is at 24 degrees 52 minutes of Aries. I mean of Libra. So I'm going to be having on this day, I will be having my exact nodal opposition. Just to point that out on a personal note. But for all of us, the nodes will be at 24 Aries and Libra. Persephone will be at 24 Libra. Pluto will be squaring the nodes at 27 Capricorn, and Ceres, Xena, which is not on this chart for some reason, will be at 24, 25. Oh wait, no, there it is. Okay, sorry. We'll be at 24, 44 minutes of Aries conjunct the North Node. Unbelievably powerful. And this is a new moon eclipse at 21 degrees Libra. Very powerful. Yeah, so I feel like I need to sit with that one a lot, and I would love your thoughts in a second as well. Okay, so what does this all mean, and what is this dance of these planets about? Well, I think there's so many possibilities. I'll just give some of my thoughts, and then I will open it up to you guys. One thought is that perhaps Ceres, Persephone, Eris, Xena, and Pluto are helping us to bridge our relationship to the underworld. Maybe they're helping us to clear our sense of fear with regard to the underworld. Maybe they're helping us to remember the gifts and the power inherent in the continuum of the full circle of life. Maybe Ceres and Persephone are this one dance in us and are part of our own dance between life, death, the underworld, and the upper world in service and in harmony with each other. Maybe Aristina helps us to hold the doorway to this new understanding, and Pluto holds an opportunity to transmute, to dissolve from that caterpillar state into the butterfly of some new thing that we are needing to be. And maybe Ceres and Persephone have a role in that energetic. Pluto will be squaring the nodes of the moon next year for quite a long time. It'll be exact on July 22nd. And that is a whole topic that I find fascinating and that I'm sitting with. What does that even mean? Pluto squaring the nodes of the moon is huge. So just in general, the thing that comes to me about that is Pluto being this opportunity for us to go from the caterpillar to dissolve in the cocoon to become the butterfly. And Ceres and Persephone maybe help pave the way for that. Maybe they're holding our hands. Maybe they're a gentler energy that helps us with that whole process. Yeah. So some questions to ponder. What is our relationship like to the underworld? How does it feel to drop into a part of ourselves that bridges the underworld and the upper world? What does it feel like to be a midwife of death, birth, and of a remembering of full total consciousness? What role does grief play in our relationship to birth, death, loving, letting go, and remembering that the all that is always is? What else do these archetypes, goddesses, and energies remind you of? Open up in you, speak as you. What wisdom is moving through you as Ceres, as Persephone, as the divine, as you? And that's it.
Thank you, Martha.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. I do have a question while everybody is thinking about their questions. I have a question that kind of popped into my head about positive attachment for those of us who may not have had quite so positive attachment with their mothers. how can we address this now?
Yeah, well, that's actually, thank you for asking that. I recently wrote a new book that I know at least a couple of people here have read. It's not published yet. I'll be publishing it probably in January, but one of the chapters in there is about expanding attachment theory. So, as a therapist, I specialized in trauma and attachment, and and what I've thought a lot about is that in traditional psychotherapeutic attachment theory, we really relegate attachment to the realm of the parent. And we kind of stop there, or maybe the caregiver. Like maybe we think, okay, you can have a secure attachment with your mother, your father, and whoever else takes care of you, which is fine, but it's so limited. And one thing that I really, is a whole huge topic, but I wonder what happens when we broaden that sense of what we consider attachment possibilities to the cosmos, to the earth, to the divine. So, I mean, I have so many thoughts on that. And I actually have many channeled guided meditations that are all about repairing your attachment style through your relationship to the planet Earth, to the cosmos, to the divine. Yeah, because if we're sitting here as adults and we did have a sucky attachment with our parents, and maybe they're dead or maybe they're alive, but they're still not capable of doing that for us, and it's not their role anymore. We need some other tool. We need some other thing to look to. So that's one of my answers is that I think there are many, many ways to do that, even as adults, in our relationship with humans, but also with the earth and the cosmos, etc.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody else who has a question for Martha, go ahead. You can either raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask away.
I loved that your story of the synchronicity of events that happened during the transit. But I love when the things play out so picturesque, so perfect.
Yeah,
like that. That's really sending a strong message that we're on path when that happens.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I'll say a more sad thing, which is that 2 days ago, Venus was on my natal Ceres, and a friend died.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and so I've been in a lot of grief, as Venus is going over that Ceres. So I think that's not a coincidence either.
No, because grief is a big part of the story.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the second version of the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more insightful way to look at it.
Hmm. I would love to hear anyone else's just, I don't need to be right with what I feel, so I would love to hear anyone, even if it's different from what I said. I would love to hear what comes up for anybody else.
Oh, I have one other comment, and that is that the other two asteroids that you did mention Demeter, and the other one is Proserpina. Might be the other one that you want to look at.
Cool, awesome. Do that.
And their symbols are very similar. The glyphs are very, very similar.
Awesome.
Persephone and Proserpina.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah, Martha, I resonated with your second version of Persephone, because I think the patriarchy has taken a lot of the goddesses and kind of demonized them and made them small in different ways. Like rather than her being a beautiful person to help the dead and dying, she becomes someone who's abducted and made to go to the underworld. And I really felt a resonance to be here at this today. And as you were talking, I have my Ceres at 20 degrees Leo retrograde with my Pluto at 15 degrees Leo. And my nodes are at 29 Aries for the North node and 29 Libra for the South node. So
Wow.
all the things that are coming up are going to be crossing me just before they get to you.
Amazing. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, that's probably part of our resonance too, is that we have our nodes very near each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
Yeah,
Can
I
I
have,
say something?
go
Hello.
ahead.
Well, I'm calling in from down under in Australia, and
Oh.
I'm in the car, so I've just pulled over, and I don't have my chart with me. I'm an astrologer myself, and I can't tell you how I resonate with this. And I can thinking, I'm a 29-degree Moon Leo conjunct Pluto, and the Pluto, this is first house to second on the cusp. Is Pluto is just in Virgo, and so my ascendant is last degrees of Cancer. So all of this is coming up for me and I'm 64 in December, Capricorn, and I have a huge mother story. My mum's 91, and she is still an astute woman, and we've had lifelong pull and tug and mother stories, and it's a really long story now, but we're coming to a new resolution, and it feels like the final one, not because mum's later in her life, but I have a moving fear underneath of her death and what that'll mean for me. She says she'll live to 124, and yesterday she decided maybe not that long. So in the light of what you've been saying, and I only picked this up 20 minutes in, so I'd love the replay. I resonate with everything, and my nodes are 16 Libra and Aries, North Node in the third house, and in Libra at 16. So when you were talking about your nodes, I'm parked, and I almost feel like not starting the car again at the moment, as I ponder, but I also feel a great celebration of some sort of profound, and it feels like a closure. I don't use that word usually because I always believe in ongoingness, but they're closure of cycles, and I believe Mum and I are closing a cycle. And I believe we're going to the next one where she really doesn't want me walking beside her, because as far as she's concerned, she can do everything. She just lost her other daughter a year ago. We've got a huge thing going on here. And and she draws mandalas every day for 2 years, colouring them in superbly. She's got 3 or 4 huge books full of them, and showed them to me yesterday. And so I've come to see this Piscean, incredibly astute woman they wanted for Lord Mayor. So, the odd sort of Pisces, I can tell you. This whole cycle where the mothers had a negative, dark mother power over, and then the systems hate me, put me in jail and do all sorts of things through my life. How I could feel and stand proud, and in a small country town now, I can mother me because I know who I am. I have a strong, good mother, not the external one who they all, look up to, but this internal one in me. And I don't have anything else to say because I'm so in the middle of it. But today the sharings that you women have offered is, I've got to go back home and get my books out and just go back into Ceres and get her image out. And they're all actually at hand. if I move things around in my tidied up house at the minute, tidying up, you know, it will reveal itself, and all the cards and everything are just there. So it's like a reminder to go home and stay in. We're one of the most locked up cities in Melbourne, and I'm 300 k's away. We're one of the locked up cities and states in the world. And so our coming out, you know, not that I followed any of those rules, being who I am, but I was wise not to move around in my own way. And that's what I'm really able to hold, my way, without it being F you, I'll do it my way, or without it being I'm going to drop out of your society, I'll just go away, or any of those reactions. And to me, that's a maturation of my moon Pluto, really. And that Hades in the underworld has terrified all of us for thousands of years. And I don't believe it really is like that either. But I'm not sure what it is yet, because I've travelled on these sites in Greece. I've travelled to places where those things come fully alive on the site. And when a moon Pluto comes fully alive and you face a dark man on a train down under in the night of Italy, you know, on your way to Pompeii and all the mystery of Villa of Mysteries, you can't muck around with, you can't be a light virgin in these areas, if you know what I'm saying, metaphorically speaking. And that's about
Thank you,
it.
Tracy.
I'm rabbiting on, but thank you for sharing, because I think, you know, this is the time for these mother energies. And yeah, thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah. I saw Christina is saying Ursula Le Guin's book Lavinia explores conversation inspiration between a gifted young woman and a writer in the shadows about to pass completely to the underworld after the Battle of Troy. It takes place at an ancient sacred spring, a beat on Persephone as sacred midwife to the underworld. Wow, beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else?
This has been wonderful, Martha.
Mhm.
Great.
Very much.
Thank you all for being here. Yeah. And I would love to do another goddess talk like this, you know, next month. So if anybody has a goddess that you're curious about or would love me to focus on it, let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to say, I look forward to the next one.
Yeah. Did Hygeia last month, this one this month, and I think I'll do one in November and one in December. So please let me know if there's a request.
Awesome. I'll definitely think about it.
Cool.
Cool. Well,
Cool.
thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody, for attending live. This has been wonderful. We've had a lot of participation today. I appreciate it.
Me too.
Until
Thank
next
you.
time.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.